while we can go to one extreme or another, it is clear that we are in the present going to an extreme of feminizing the criminal justice system. And because we are now permissive when it comes to those who break laws, we are creating victims rather than helping victims because of our permissive nature in the criminal justice system today. And this was reported to us just recently in St. Louis, where a man named Daniel Riley was out on bond for armed robbery and had already violated the conditions of his bond numerous times. And he was let out on bond and allowed to violate this bond numerous times by a George Soros-funded circuit judge named Kim Gardner. Now, this Kim Gardner has a pretty interesting history that whenever she has been criticized, she would jump immediately to claiming that it is because she's black and not because she's actually not doing her job well. Well, just recently, this Daniel Riley out on bond for armed robbery after violating his bond multiple times and should have been in prison. This man got into a car accident where he failed to yield at a yield sign, ran directly into a car that was carrying a young girl from Tennessee, and he rammed into the car so hard that the young girl had to have both of her legs amputated. Now, this young girl was a volleyball player, and she had a scholarship to a school and was about to go to this school very, very soon. And she was actually on her way to visit. And in the process, got in this car accident. And as I said, both of her legs were amputated simply because this man that should have been in jail was out gallivanting around and driving without a license. Now, the more permissive we become with our laws, the more victims we actually create. And by the way, the victims are not just the people who are having their legs amputated because a circuit judge won't do her job. It is also the criminals here who desperately need to learn from their past actions. And we, in the present, are so utopianist, don't realize that the only way that some people will learn is when they feel the repercussions and the weight of their crime, when they are punished for their crime. Now, this has been widely reported and what is happening in Portland. 2 years into drug reform laws that are trying to fight against that Nixon war on drugs, 2 years into this drug reform, Portland is absolutely being devoured by drug addiction and drug use out in the public city streets. So a recent measure, Measure 110 in Portland, was implemented. And what Measure 110 essentially did was it took what they would call petty drug use and petty drug possession and basically made it a traffic violation. And so now you can get a citation if you're in the middle of smoking fentanyl on the street, and the citation is a $100 fine that can easily be waived if you make a phone call to a addiction recovery line or something like that. But in the process, this permissive drug law taking shape in Portland is starting to destroy the fabric of that already hemorrhaging society. So here's just a small clip of this drug reform law in action in Portland.
Portland, Oregon, 2 years after decriminalizing personal amounts of hard drugs. The open drug use, the deaths, worse than ever.
Where are we here now?
This is Skidmore Fountain, which has been called Fentanyl Fountain by some of the folks that we've interacted with.
Police officer David Bayer patrols downtown. Measure 110, the ballot initiative that brought in decriminalization, changed his job.
See this guy right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, watch this.
What's he doing?
He's probably smoking fentanyl. See that?
Yeah.
And we're like, we're in what's basically a police car. It's unmarked, but we're pretty obviously the police. Hi there, put that knife away, please. What are you smoking?
Betty.
Okay, just powder fentanyl?
Yeah.
Is that what you drop right there?
Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah.
Can you pick that up so someone else doesn't find it or a kid doesn't find that, please?
Under Measure 110, Bayer writes a $100 ticket. The fine will be waived if this man phones a treatment hotline.
Now, for those of you who are listening and not watching, you just saw a man smoking fentanyl on the street, throwing it down on the ground. The cop had to ask him to pick it up so that there weren't any kids that came by and grabbed it. And then he was given a citation and then allowed to continue to smoke his fentanyl. Now, the reason this is truly an issue is that is that, forget defunding the police for a moment, push that to the side. What we've actually done through permissive laws is we've neutered the police so that they don't have any ability to actually functionally fight crime in the city streets. So yeah, we can talk all about the problems of defunding the police, and we will in just a moment, but essentially these kind of laws that are permissive when it comes to egregious acts of drug use right in our city streets, right before the face of cops, is an effective way of defunding the police without defunding the police. And it's a story that we're not talking about very much today. But why defund the police in the first place? Why be so permissive when it comes to policing in our city streets, especially in places that desperately need more cops, not less? Well, of course, I think we know. The reason you would defund the police is that the police are one of the few stopgaps for those who want to revolutionize society. For those who want to try to dismantle society piece by piece, they need to do so as unobstructed as possible. So these weaklings who know that they actually do not have the physical force to actually create revolution want to do so in a maniacal and diabolical way. And the way that they do that is by trying to defenestrate and to try to demoralize the police in our public cities. And so this, of course, is nothing less than an opportunity to try to dismantle and recreate our society in a vision that looks more like the Communist Manifesto than it actually does reality. See, this is why the permissive nature of our criminal justice reform is actually a serious problem. If we have an issue in the criminal justice system, especially today, it is not that the wrong people are accused and then sent to jail. This making a murderer kind of conspiracy theory that the left has, although they don't call it a conspiracy theory, they just call it justice, that by and large, the vast majority of people who are in prison don't deserve to be there and should be let out on the street. This conspiracy theory is actually very, very dangerous, not only because it lets criminals out on the street, but also because it slowly but surely dismantles our society and allows for the few things that keep order in our society to actually be kept in place. Permissive criminal justice reform is nothing less than an opportunity to feminize and weaken our culture so that we are more easily duped and subdued. This is what this is all about. By the way, this is why more and more fathers are being removed from homes or being told that they are unnecessary in homes. Because when you take a father out of the home, the one who was supposed to protect is no longer there to protect. And kids are much more vulnerable now. No wonder you're seeing an uptick in these kind of targeted drag queen shows and transgender story hour and drag queen story hour, especially aimed at children. Remove fathers from the home, and then you have the only stopgap and the only protection that kids have against some of these maniacal things in our society. So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video, so you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.